September 9th regular meeting of the Wappinger Town Board. May the clerk please call the roll.
Councilman Beal.
Here.
Councilwoman Bettina.
Here.
Councilman Phillips.
Here.
Councilman Casella.
Here.
Supervisor Pevasine. Sorry.
Thank you. Here. In just a moment, I'll ask you to join us in rising for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. That will be followed by a moment of invocation by Pastor Nathan Robinson of the Chapel Falls Christian Fellowship, and that'll be followed by a moment of silent meditation. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's bow our hearts. Almighty God, as our founding fathers began each meeting in prayer, we begin this evening looking to your throne. We are living in some incredible times with unimaginable events here in our community. We thank you for our town board, our town supervisor, who are strong, courageous, compassionate leaders who love our nation and this town. Please grant them great wisdom and guidance as they consider all of the needs, requests, and business before them. May their meeting here tonight bring great help and hope and quality of life to the families of this town. And may you grant them great vision as they consider the days ahead. We also pray that you bless their families and their staff. In light of this weekend's hostile events, we also ask you to bless all of our brave police officers and emergency service workers. Keep them safe as they keep us safe. Watch over them and their families and help our community to stand strong together through these days. Bless all who are here tonight and those watching. And we ask this in the name of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you again, Pastor Robinson. Your friendship and words are always leaving us with great impact, and we greatly appreciate you and your impact in our community. Thank you. With that, do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
I would like to move Resolution 2024-176 to non-consent.
We have a motion made by Councilman Phillips to move the resolution authorizing a memorandum of understanding with Regency Homeowners Association to non-consent. Any other amendments?
No. I'll second that.
Seeing none, do we have a moved and seconded? Councilman Phillips and Councilman Casella. All in favor on the amendment?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much. Motion passes. Do I have a motion to acknowledge the minutes of August 19th, 2024?
I make a motion to approve the minutes, to accept the minutes of August 19th.
Moved by Councilwoman Bettina.
Second.
Second by Councilman Phillips. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much. Motion passes. Folks, we have one public hearing before us this evening that is on local law number 3. We encourage you to come on up and state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes. Again, this is on local law number 3.
I'll make that motion. I'll second it.
Moved by Councilman Phillips, second by Councilman Casella. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much. The public hearing is now open, folks. You're welcome to come up to the podium.
Hi, my name is Brian Falk. I'm at 29 Surrey Lane in Chelsea Ridge. Right now, we're trying to open up a studio in Chelsea Ridge Mall, to Chelsea Ridge Mall, and the adoption of Local Law 3 would help facilitate the beginning of that dream. And I just want to take a moment to thank the Town Council Town Supervisor Cavazzini and the whole zoning board for helping me through this whole process. I knew nothing about going in. And I appreciate you guys taking your time and, you know, guiding me through and putting your efforts into kind of getting this done. Really speaks volumes for the administration. They would hear and consider and follow through on helping local business owners achieve their goals. As it stands, I have a full roster of absolutely amazing artists and an incredible manager over here who's, raring to start, and we're just waiting for, the go-ahead and the passing of Local Law 3 would, begin that process. We're really looking forward to serving the town of Wappingers, the greater Hudson Valley area, and everywhere beyond. And, I'll be true to my commitment to give back to the community and provide a positive influence through art and culture in the area. And we're proud to be part of the town of Wappingers, and I know it won't be long before the town is proud to have us a local business. I just kind of wanted to come here and say thank you. So I appreciate it, guys.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Marcia Wagman, Old Troy Road. I am so very disappointed and quite frankly hurt. I stood here during the August 19th public hearing and congratulated you on the actions taken with Local Law 1, Local Law 2, and the proposed law. And I talked about the importance of staying true to the Greenway Conservancy, which has been an important promise the town made to the community for over 30 years. To me, these actions followed a robust campaign season in 2023, where voters expressed the need for change in the town. And I and many others attended your swearing ceremony in January, where each of you expressed your hopes for the community and that we had put the actions of the past into the past. And I and many others were at the event at the Boathouse at the 100-day mark, where, and I know not all of you were able to make it, but there was this energy and hope that was expressed in creating a future that respects the residents and the contributions that they make to the town. It seemed like the town turned a corner and that you were part of that. And that we as a community were working together to create a healthy and good future. And it isn't just that this really important clause was removed from the proposed law, but it's the process that was used to remove the clause, leaving less than 2 working days for us to read it and understand the changes, and not understanding your reasoning, despite 2 board meetings when it was on the agenda, and there were the planning board's workshops. And I really hope that you discuss the reasons tonight. And I can guess that later in this meeting, there's going to be a phrase on the advice of counsel, or some similar phrase will be used. And advice is not a prescription, it's not a mandate. It's a phrase lawyers use to mitigate risk, but in this case, it isn't the residents' risk or the town's risk that's being mitigated. It's the risk for one business. And even at that, it's a very hypothetical risk that includes a whole string of ifs and ifs and ifs, and it versus a very real risk to residents in their homes, and risks that every one of our neighboring towns protects against. So please vote to adopt Local Law number 3, because the other pieces of it are important, but just know that an opportunity that a lot of us were counting on has been missed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wagman. Anyone else wishing to speak on Local Law number 3?
Only Local Law number 3?
There will be a public portion on all agenda items. Yeah.
Good evening, Grace Martin, 52 Fieldstone Boulevard. I don't want to repeat a lot of what Marcy said. I also did go through the changes, and again, it's you had to lay them side by side. I also feel that this board is trying to create a legacy that was promised to us to improve our quality of life. And the change that was now put in and taken out of this particular local law 3, I think you forgot that vision. I don't clearly and want to understand things that go on behind the scenes, and I highly doubt there'll be a gas station put on Fieldstone Boulevard. But that doesn't mean that should be taken out, and I want to talk for the rest of the neighbors in Wappingers. If I also remember when there was discussions on this in the last 5 or 6, 7 years that I've been clearly paying attention to the board, I think most of you board members basically said you weren't part of the previous change, that you weren't on the board. You're on the board now. So again, don't understand the logistics behind it, and I clearly support the legacy that you're all trying to do and improve our town. But I would ask you to reconsider it. I feel bad for this gentleman who's trying to build his business, because once again, it seems like things get held up because of some other lines. But again, I don't understand why it was taken out, and I hope it gets explained. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Martin.
Melissa Finnegan, 7 Marlerville Road, right next to the gas station. When my husband and I bought our house in Houstonville 30 years ago, we wanted the sweet hometown feeling, and that's exactly what we got. We went all in. Little League, PTA, Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts. We love our neighbors. We love our schools, Grinnell Library. It was a great place to raise our family. But the town board's decision to allow a gas station to be built right next to our homes has changed that. I'm so worried about the new drivers trying to get off of Marlerville Road or to get onto Marlerville Road. I don't know how the buses are going to do it. My well. That gas station is huge. It is behemoth. I can't believe anyone in here realized just how big that thing was going to be. My daughter is worried about the privacy into her second floor window now. It's a shame. That gas station has been a disaster for my family and my neighborhood. Please don't let this happen to another family. This board is the agency for change for everyone in this room and everyone that lives in the Wappingers. You are the agency for change. Please change local law number 3.
Thank you, Mrs. Finnegan.
Ellen Kors, 29, actually not anymore, 41 Helen Drive. I watched the 45-minute workshop at your request. I had requested to see the letter that the planning board ended up sending, but Chris, you didn't send it to me, you didn't answer my emails. So this is my feeling. I don't live by that gas station, but the idea that a gas station could be built near my home or anywhere else, to me, is appalling. It's obvious that people didn't want it. It still went through. And I know you're trying to be transparent. So my question to you is, can you please explain to the people here or at some point why you won't put the law back?
Thank you, Mrs. Kors.
Evening, ladies and gentlemen. Ron Evangelista, Route 9D in Houstonville. fairly near the new gas station. Appreciate the opportunity to speak this evening. My wife and I have lived in our current location, Houstonville, for 49 years. I was very disappointed about a very distinct and important change that's been discussed a little bit tonight, in particular, Chapter 240-52, gasoline filling stations. I was pleased to see that it was in the August version of Local Law Number 3, but very displeased to see it's been taken out. I'm not sure why, and as the last person asked, I really wish that this board would explain why that section was removed. It's my understanding that the planning board, at the town board's request, reviewed Local Law Number 3, and they had a few comments, but they certainly were okay with 240-52 gasoline filling stations. For those that may not know, that provided restrictions to placement of gas stations near residential districts. Couldn't be within 1,000 feet, couldn't be near places of public use, schools, libraries, churches, things along those lines. So those protections were there at one time. There are 30 communities in Dutchess County, 20 towns, 8 villages, 2 cities. All but two have restrictions on gas stations. I'm not sure why the town of Wappingers won't do that. And again, I would love to hear that explanation. All the communities that surround, there's 6 or 7 communities that surround the town of Wappinger. Even Newburgh, across the river, has restrictions against gas stations. Restrictions. It doesn't say don't build them, but there are restrictions in place as to where you can build them. So again, all communities in Dutchess County have that. In other counties throughout the state, there are restrictions. We'd really like to hear from this board as to why that section was removed, and we'd really like to see it put back in. When you folks took your oath of office, it was to serve and to protect the residents and your constituents. Please do that by putting back some restrictions on gas stations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Evangelista.
Hello. My name is Eileen Chadwick. I live at 8 Amherst Lane. I used to live at 7 Marlarville Road for several years with a shallow well, now going to be affected, and now 39 years in Tall Trees neighborhood. I want to make a statement and ask a question. I don't know if you all appreciate the skepticism and distrust many of us have because of the way that gas station went through. The lack of public hearings, the lack of ability for residents to come to these meetings and talk. And as Marcy said, we were so hopeful about the new administration, and that's why the vote went the way it did. This feels the same. The distrust, the skepticism behind the deals that might have been made, and so forth is there. Last part of the statement, we live one house off of Wheeler Hill Road. I wish you'd all come walk on Wheeler Hill Road. I don't know if you appreciate the traffic that zooms through there morning and then evening because they're all avoiding the Houstonville light. What do you think's going to happen when the gas station opens? That traffic has increased. The tree at the bottom curve of Wheeler Hill has been hit many times. No one stops at the stop sign. It's a very bad road to have that. It still has the bumper in it. It still has the bumper in the tree. It's a very bad road, and so none of us know the real reason that gas station was built. My question, especially to you, Mr. Beal, and to you, Mr. Cavazzini, is what do you think your constituents and the residents are going to benefit from having that buffer zone removed from Article Number 3? How are your constituents and residents in Wappingers going to benefit from you removing that from the zoning law?
I introduced the legislation with it in it. Just
to put it back in?
Correct.
But
way
it
of
was
clarification.
removed.
We're going to have more discussion on that tonight.
Okay.
But I was the sponsor. I was the sponsoring member of this town board for local law.
You can tell me, though, what benefit it would be to the. I just want to say, on advice of legal counsel, many of us can kind of see through that and think that there might be a concern about repercussions from the developer of Gasland, which will not be affected, but there has to be a legal way around that if that's part of the concern. So please listen to us this time. It didn't happen last time.
Thank you, Mr. Chadwick.
Good evening, Supervisor Cavazzini and members of the Town Board. My name is Franca Petrillo. I live at 10 Apple Lane, Houstonville. Most people in this room know me, not because of the time I spend here at Town Board meetings, but because of many of the other community activities I am involved in. With the Senior Center, with my church, with my time teaching so many students. It gives me great pleasure to have so many friends and to know so many people, many who have helped me over the years. And I get joy in helping them and working to improve my community. Next year will mark 50 years that I have lived in my home. A home I shared with my husband, my mother, my daughter, and her family. It's the heart of my family and gathering place for friends and a place of great comfort to me. I never thought at this point in my life I would have to be fighting my town, a town that I love, to keep my home peaceful and safe. I know that including restrictions on where gas stations can be sited, which every surrounding town has, will not change anything for me or my neighbors at this point. That's for the court to sort out. I would have hoped that the process that I and my neighbors are living through would have proved a lesson to all those involved. And we would have worked together as a community to respect the desire of all residents in the town of Wappinger to be able to enjoy their homes and not feel like their neighborhood peace could be upended like in the Houstonville hamlet. While I support the passage of proposed local law number 3, I can't tell you how disappointed I am and heartbroken that such an important protection for the residents was removed. I want to personally thank Supervisor Cavazzini, who tried to do the right thing for us, and I had really hoped in getting to know all of you, other town board members in the past 3 years of attending the meetings. I had hoped that you would have been as supportive as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Petrillo.
Hi, good evening. My name is Katie Glimbodsky. I live at 647 Wheeler Hill Road. And I'm here to read a letter regarding a conversation of a resident with Ms. Bettina. It's Edgar Hartman of Stony Hill Road, Ward number 2 resident. Mr. Hartman is out of the country right now, and he'll be back in a few days, but he's been kept abreast of this particular situation, and so he writes, after we spoke on the phone earlier this week, I was encouraged by your words in support of keeping the town of Wappingers a rural place to live, protecting open spaces and resident neighbors in the best interests of your constituents without giving in to corporate interests. In particular, I told you that I was pleased to see the gasoline station zoning provisions reinstated in local law number 3. I thought you were in support of this position, but you indicated that there might be some discussion and changes to what I saw written in the new law. I am currently out of the country for a few weeks and will be unable to attend the September 9th meeting, but I'm now being told that the whole section with restrictions on where new gas stations might be built has been removed in total from local law number 3. I really hope that this is not the case and that the current town board will step up and do the right thing with this issue. Please don't let corporate interests sway your vote toward keeping it open season for more of these eyesores being built in our town. please make Town of Wappinger's gasoline station zoning restrictions at least as strong as those in surrounding towns in Dutchess County. Please restore the gasoline station restrictions to local law number 3. Yours truly, Edgar Hartman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Glimboski.
Good evening. My name is Linda Abraham. I live at 47 Sherwood Heights in Ward 4 in the town of Wappingers. I'm here to read a message from Darrell Brennan, who is the committee chair for the town of Wappingers Democrats. She can't make it this evening. My name is Darrell Brennan. I'm a resident of Ward 4 in the town of Wappingers and the current chair of the town of Wappingers Democratic Committee. Unfortunately, I have a work commitment and cannot attend the public hearing tonight to offer testimony in person. I have asked Linda Abraham, please. Jesus, I don't have a whole message. Well, she's asked me to speak on her behalf. And while she's in favor of the passage of local law number 3, as it is currently written, due to other protections provided by the wetlands and businesses, she's disappointed that the language to protect residential areas for new gas stations being built was dropped from the original draft of local law number 3 that was in circulation. She's reached out to Council Member Al Casella about this change and is grateful for the time he spent speaking with her. He stated the removal of this clause was due to advice of current town council to avoid litigation against the town of Wappingers due to the current litigation involving the Usonville project. Town council, and I am assuming that that is Michael Gregorio, advised them to leave the code as it is to lessen the likelihood of litigation being brought if Gasland Usonville does not prevail in their current litigation. Local law number 3 will have no bearing on the Gasland Usonville case, as that is under current code. Why leave the barn door open for other new gas stations to be built and encourage new litigation from both developer and/or residents? The good news from my discussion with Councilman Member Casella is that there will be additional revisions to town code in the future. He said it would support and vote in favor of adding additional provisions for gas station restrictions back in the code as soon as litigation over Usonville is complete.
Exactly what I said.
While I would prefer the gas station buffer code be added to local law 3 currently, I will be monitoring the situation closely, reminding Councilman Casella of his promise to add and support new provisions once litigation is finished, and hold him and the town board to account. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Hayden Wayne. I reside at 605 Wheeler Hill Road. I've been a resident for 23 years. What's the definition of wealth? It sure isn't money. Tell me, what is the definition of wealth? We have one of the most remarkable natural causes of wealth in the Hudson Valley. And we're screwing it up. My gracious neighbors, the Chadwicks, who I cherish, who literally are back to my property. I walk 3 miles every day up and down Conwath.
Are you referencing local law number 3, Mr. Wayne?
Yes, I am. I would like to know how a gas station gets built without easement. Really. Environment protection reality. Tell me, how? How does a town board not listen to us who elect you and may very possibly not elect you next season? You wonder about what's going on in this country. I'm not taking political sides, but it's scary, isn't it? Where we don't have truth anymore. And any foundation of civilization in recorded history is predicated upon truth, which obviously has been abandoned in this
Mr. Wayne, I'm not going to sit here and listen to you make baseless accusations. I've been on this town board for 18 years.
I know that.
And I will tell you this. I will tell you this. Never has a decision been made by myself to benefit me in any way, especially having to do with
Did I say that in my language? I did not say that in my language, sir.
Please listen to me. I've been here the longest, okay? I was not a fan nor a supporter of this gas station. I've made that clear during public hearings.
If we can please refrain, excuse me, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, listen, you can react any way you'd like.
Mr. Beal, I have not attacked your person whatsoever.
Just
as a matter of fact, I haven't even mentioned your name until you just
Understand one
forced
thing,
me
Mr.
to.
Wayne. I'm not going to sit here and allow the town board to be treated in this fashion either. The planning board is the authority having jurisdiction on the approval of this project, okay? You're standing before the wrong board. We are in the process of doing exactly what the supervisor promised during his campaign, to review this town code. A moratorium was put into place. We have been unanimous on these efforts. The fact that we have now got to go back to the drawing board on certain sections of this code to ensure that we're not opening up the entire town for additional liability with respect to legal exposure, we have an obligation to do that. So, I'm not a liar. You know what amazes me? You know what amazes me? I have risked my life for residents of this town, and we have people standing here, sitting here, making ridiculous statements like that. How dare you, ma'am? How dare you?
Excuse me. We cannot,
I did not lie to you.
Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen.
You have crossed the line. I did not lie to anyone, okay? I don't lie to anyone.
Councilman.
I don't know who you are. I don't know where you live, but I certainly would like to follow up with you after the meeting. The fact that you have the audacity to sit there in that chair and make statements such as that tells me about your character. What do you mean it's all
We are not going to have a back and forth.
What are you trying to say?
We are not going to have a back and forth.
What are you trying to say?
Councilman.
We all know. Okay. Honestly, I'm not going to entertain any more of your ridiculously ignorant statements from that chair. You are ridiculously ignorant if you're going to make an implication that someone took money as a result of that project. That's what you're saying.
He sold his house just so he could get that.
Okay, excuse me.
This just blows my mind.
Excuse me.
It blows my mind.
If you have a public comment, you come to the podium. We do not attack members of the town board, neither will the town board attack members of this audience.
Somehow this is flown
Just for the record,
Exactly.
I think I have a right to respond to the fact that this person just said I sold my house so that I could benefit in some way from this project. I don't know what planet you're from, okay, and I don't know what reality or universe you're in, but I'll talk to you after the meeting if you want to clarify the facts. The fact that you have the audacity to sit there and make those ridiculous statements speaks volume for yourself. Thank you.
Mr. Wayne.
Psychology, watch the buttons that get pressed and how you explain yourself in self-defense. I refer to that to everybody in this room.
I sit here on this town board for the betterment of this town. I have been here longer than anybody else on this town board, and I'm not going to sit here after being reelected more times than anybody on this board and listen to a handful of people make ignorant statements when you don't have the facts. Okay? Don't shake your head like you didn't just make a ridiculous... I got to say, in 18 years, I've never heard a more irresponsible statement from an audience member.
May I continue, please?
Mr. Wayne, as long as you continue to direct your comments at local law.
I am trying, but ladies and gentlemen, there's my cue, and I'm a professional. You're hearing all this and you're seeing it, right?
Well, clearly the Democratic Party is here in full effect. Clearly.
What does that mean? I'm partyless,
What does that
sir.
mean? We have an individual
Stop.
reading a letter from the chair of the Democratic Party.
Put a sock in it.
And we
I am partyless.
Mr. Wayne,
I am partyless, Bill. You're showing your slip by overreacting. It's elementary psychology.
Come on.
I haven't brought up anything.
Get to your point, Hayden. Get to your point, please.
I tried. I immediately asked, where was the easement provision in giving this lease?
We are not the board that approved those.
How did they get to do that?
The planning board and the zoning board have those jurisdictional responsibilities.
How?
How? There's a reason why this town board is separate from the planning board and the zoning board. There's a separation of powers within town government.
So you're telling me then that you, which are gracious, and you're friends of mine. I'm not attacking you. Relax. You're representing us. Are you really telling us to really crush us now that you have no power against the other two entities? If you're representing us and we said to you, please represent us to stop this from happening?
We appoint the members of the planning board and the members of the zoning board. The planning board members are in 7-year terms by design because we are in 2-year terms. The zoning board members are in 5-year terms by design. The idea is that these boards operate independently and there's no political aspect to those boards. That's the idea.
One would hope, but you didn't answer my question.
Mr. Wayne, public hearing is often a time for comments. We're going to be having further discussions on this.
Yes, I understand, but it's very, this is your community too, guys.
Let's not imply that anyone...
If that happened next to your home, how freaked out you would be. And now that money means nothing, it's equity.
Equity
is everything to us.
I'm not going to sit here and listen to people make accusations that we somehow are benefiting from a project.
I did not say that again.
That's the implication here.
I did not say that. You have very serious issues about defense. I never said that. Run the tape and you will see it.
I've sat here for 8 years, okay, and listened to individuals make ignorant statements that we are benefiting in some way from this. We are not benefiting from this. There's no benefit.
Okay.
Well, defensive because don't get it in your head that we are sitting here and trying to take advantage of the residents of this town. That's what that woman said just a few minutes ago, and that is disgusting.
Elizabeth Strine, 785 Wheeler Hill Road.
Thank you.
I served on the Beacon Planning Board for 9 years when I lived at Beacon before I moved to Wappingers Falls. And this sort of thing happened a lot in early days of Beacon, 2000, 2005, up in around that time. And one of the things that came up frequently was, well, accusations that council people take bribes, which I happen to know we were accused of quite a lot, and I don't know how often it happens, but it never happened in Beacon. But what I want to say is that the master plan is really what dictates what can and can't be done in the town. Planning board, zoning board, town council, they don't have any teeth because they're not a legal board. So they can get sued, which is absolutely true, if they deviate from what's in the master plan. So I would like to publicly suggest that the town of Wappingers review its master plan and pay attention to all of those things that we've all become so much more interested in protecting and taking care of, because we are getting screwed with this gas station. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it. And it's not fair
One person at a time, please.
It's not fair to the people. So let us all engage together to figure out how to revisit the master plan and make sure this sort of thing doesn't happen again. And I'd be happy to spearhead it if that's something that you can have a public, non-official do. Thank you.
Just understand the idea of the moratorium was to do just that.
I was just going to say, ma'am, thank you for your comments, because we do have a moratorium in place. For those of you who are not aware, we introduced it at the beginning of the year. In doing so, we've stopped thousands of housing units, high-density housing units from coming into this town. And during this pause, that personally I'm very proud of, I know my colleagues are as well. We are going through this process right now. That is what local law number 2 was, which was fortunately passed, and now local law number 3. I am the originating sponsor of each of these pieces of legislation. We are going through this piece by piece right now, trying to put back in restrictions, trying to strengthen our town code. The comprehensive plan is also part of that. So thank you for your comments. They are what we are working on right now. So thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on local law number 3?
I make a motion to close public hearing on local law 3.
Moved by Councilwoman Bettina.
Second.
Just point of order on that. Does the public hearing close, or does it remain adjourned? How does this work?
No, this would be an action to close the public hearing.
Right.
Yes. Moved by Councilwoman Bettina, second by Councilman Phillips. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you very much. The public hearing is now closed. The next item on our agenda would be Resolution 2024-158, a local law number 3 of 2024, which would amend chapters 85, 213, 214, and 240 of the town code with respect of a variety of definitions and zoning codes regulating businesses and planning. Do I have a motion for discussion?
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Councilman Phillips, second by Councilman Casella. Any discussion? If none, I was going to say, again, I am the originating sponsor of the original document that included, obviously, the gas station restrictions that were noted there. We took this to the planning board for a line-by-line evaluation. I argue it was one of the most transparent local law changes that we've had in recent times. We've had deliberations up here. The planning board gave us their comments, and here we are today. So I am opening up to any discussion.
So we do have 3 new comments that came in tonight, and I'd like to defer discussion to our attorney on this one.
Actually, I just wanted to speak to the board. Yeah, I've had some discussions with the board members and just an explanation of the advice of counsel, because obviously that's been largely discussed tonight in the public hearing. Our firm represents the town board. We don't represent the town in connection with this particular litigation. We've had discussions with litigation counsel with regard to the gas station portion of proposed local law number 3. Just so that there's an understanding of, what the advice of the basis behind what the recommendation was from our litigation counsel. I think it's it's not really a mystery, and it's probably important to share, but there's a state provision in the town code in New York State McKinney's town law. That's the town law 282. And what that does is it provides for a stay when there is litigation pending on a particular matter. And what that does is it restricts the town, the planning board, the zoning board, the town board from taking action while things are pending in front of the court. And the discussion with litigation counsel was that there's no grandfathering that this particular project would be entitled to. And if there was a revision made that affected the project while it was being reviewed by the court, it could be argued that it would violate the stay. The larger concern was that leading up to 2024, the town had a certain number of unfavorable opinions reached by the court against it based on adoptions of laws that have gone on. And there's a pretty significant risk of exposure if there's a pattern of activities that go on like that. So in an effort to protect the residents, I can understand why the restrictions have been put back into place to affect gas stations. But litigation counsel suggested, hey, look, if there's another situation where the court says, all right, town of Wappinger, this is, how many times you've made a revision to a local law, and I'd argue continually to this day that the revisions that have been made in order to reduce development or preclude certain developments have been in the best interest of the town. there's risk there, and it's real risk. It's not just it isn't nebulous. It is in fact real. And so the advice of counsel was revisit this after this litigation ends. As soon as the litigation ends, you could take it right back up. And that was the advice to the board, so that the public has the benefit of understanding what the difference was between the last time the law was discussed and now. Those differences were really having a much better understanding of the extent of the litigation, what it involved, and our attorneys being concerned about violating a potential stay provision in state law. So that is the background for what has occurred, why that advice of counsel came about, and why it was conveyed from Tom Wood to me, then to you guys. So I hope that helps.
I have additional questions with regard to this local law that need to be discussed in executive session before I'll vote on it.
Okay. Any other discussion? Seeing none, Councilman, did you have a motion to table? Or?
I will motion to table the local law number 3, which is resolution number 158, for discussion in executive session.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Beal, second by Councilwoman Bettina on the motion to table. All in favor?
Aye.
Nay. Let the record reflect 4 ayes, 1 nay. Okay, moving right along.
I'm sorry, were you a no?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
It was a nay. I believe in the public discussion on it. Do I have a motion to open the public portion?
I'll move it.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Casella, second by Councilwoman Bettina. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the opportunity and point in our agenda where you're able to come up and speak on agenda items only. You have 3 minutes. We ask that you give your name and address for the record.
No, there we go.
Oh. You could have come up to the front. It's all good.
I'm not scary up there, guys.
No, no, no.
No, it's not.
All right. Thank you all for being here tonight and the service that you do for our community. My name is Jessica Sartonio. I live on 1 Doyle Drive in Wappinger Falls. Resident of the town of Wappinger in Rockingham Farm since 2020. Yes, I was one of the people who moved to the area because of the pandemic. I got involved with the Friends of Carnwath in 2022. I joined the board in the spring of 2023 as the treasurer and recently became the interim president. The Friends Group, for folks who don't know, is a nonprofit whose vision is for Carnwath Farms Historic Site and Park to become a heritage tourism destination for the public and to increase a sense of community in the town of Wappinger. We do this work with the town, members of the public, and other organizations to assist in the beautification, restoration, and preservation of the buildings and grounds of the site. Like many people who know the park, and trust me, there's a lot of people in this room who know a lot more about the park than I do, all right? Pretty much, probably everyone in this room knows more about the park than I do. I've only been here in a small snippet of time. I'm thrilled that the community has this extraordinary, truly extraordinary resource. Almost 100 acres right on the Hudson. Just pause on that for a minute. 100 acres of land on the Hudson River with sweeping views of the river landscape and a fascinating history. There are many community members in Wappinger and beyond who have a deep connection with this park, and I've truly been humbled learning and meeting members of the community. The town purchased the site back in 1999 with the goal of creating a cultural attraction to evoke a lasting image of the heritage of Wappinger and for increasing visitation. When I first joined the board, one of my first tasks was to kind of brush up on the involvement with the town and the park. So I went to the clerk's office, thank you, Joe, and I reviewed the 2 mailer boxes full of all the resolutions, issues, and more that the town has managed over the 2+ decades since owning the park. I was deeply humbled by this experience to see all the people, resources and hard work that went into, frankly, a lot of temporary fixes. And a lot of those were really just to try to keep the buildings afloat, because it's a huge park. It's a huge responsibility. And to be clear, my current reflection is that those fixes were necessary and critical to get the park to where it is right now. And because of those decisions, we actually have Resolution 173 even on the table today. That said, I believe that the park can't go on like this. The 2007 master plan was created after 18 months of effort by the town of Wappinger to plan the phased development, management, and operation of Carnwath Farms. At that point, the public was supportive of a mix of private and public use that would keep the site accessible to the public. Knowing the costs and appreciating all the effort that went into maintaining the grounds and buildings makes the case even stronger for how important of a time we're in to move forward with that plan. As the public continues to be supportive of that plan. So I'm here to express my personal support for the town to pursue a lease agreement with Carnwath Farms Lane LLC. That doesn't mean I don't have questions. That doesn't mean y'all shouldn't have questions. Of course there's questions. But this is really a once in a lifetime opportunity for the park. And what it would mean for folks who aren't up on that is the Carnwath Manor and Chapel can be brought back to life and maintained as a 25-room hotel, cafe, and rental space. Especially important in this lease is that the foyers, parlors, and historic spaces of the ground floor of the Carnwath Manor will be operated to the general public, and this is a quote from some of the pre-read, for enjoyment for the people of the town of Wappinger for historical interpretation. This will bring visitors and residents and their dollars to our town, which currently does not have any hotel B&B inns to support local tourism, a huge step in the direction of the town's intent with purchasing the park to begin with, and fully aligned with the vision of the Friends Group. So I please ask, don't let the thousands, probably tens of thousands of human hours, and I don't even want to try to calculate dollar-wise how much money has gone into the park, but a lot, that has already gone in, and I ask that you vote yes on this important resolution. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ellen Coors, 41 Helen Drive, Wappingers. I was on the original committee in 1999 when they bought the property, and we fixed up part of the building. I'm not going to go through everything she said, but we did have a cocktail party, and everybody was excited that we were going to use this for a venue. And then, all these years later, everything fell apart, nothing was done. So I am really excited to partner with this company, and hopefully now we're getting back on track to do what we originally said was going to be done with the property. So I hope you all vote yes.
Thank you, Mrs. Coors.
Hi. Hayden Wayne again, 605 Wheeler Hill Road, here 23 years. I had a dog named Olivia. We walked to the park, Carnwath, every day. One thing I will say quickly, as we, as dog walkers, really became the wardens of Carnwath. And Joey can attest to this because I would text Richard Thurston, oh, there's a limb, da-da-ba, this could be a widowmaker here, there's a tree, because we would see the micro minutia. And our correspondence with the town and the resulting fixing of this, there were no injuries, number one. Responding to Eileen's statement about the traffic, I don't think Bill might remember, because Bill's on the board the longest. I had once suggested putting in a series of speed bumps. Nothing major, and the kind of bump that a truck that's pushing snow would not get caught on, but enough to slow down the traffic. I have great eye-hand coordination. I can tell speeds. I'm a musician. the tonality of an engine and the tires on the road. These people are doing 40 and some of them doing 50 miles an hour on Wheeler Hill. Trust me, they are. And I walk and I see them and I do all this kind of strange stuff as I'm walking for them to see my hands so I don't get clipped around a bend. I'm not going to stop my walking. It's a health issue. As far as what I said before about the wealth of this town, and thank God you guys had the vision to buy Conworth. God bless you. That is the jewel of the Nile, as it were. If we can get someone in on their dime to fix the Manor House, we'll get somebody to fix the big building. Do you know what rents and lets fees you could get out of that? You could probably get $500,000 a year. That goes to the town to self-run all these projects. Joey knows me at the inception, before we had CO problems with the chapel, about turning it into a concert hall. It has remarkable acoustics to the point that they have to be dampened down. Now, where the priest used to stand at the end of the hall, interestingly enough, while the big potentate was at the center at the lectern, you had two wings where they would sit in their chairs. This is a micro proscenium stage that has flies and a backstage. You could do concerts here. You could do theater here. You could do amazing things here. You could use the space as a recording studio to generate money. I've already donated a few $1,000s in lighting. The Friends of Conworth, which I'm a member of, put in $5,000 of additional equipment so far. If we can do fundraisers and demonstrate with the Manor House jumping, and people see, ooh, 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 and we have readings, and we do this, and we bring the youth in, and we bring everybody in to be into this intercourse of experiencing art, which is the true value of humanity. We demonstrate to the rest of this country as a small community what is truly possible in this country. Because we are truly dedicated, patriotic citizens of this town. Am I wrong? Do you love this town? Let me hear you. Do you love this town?
Mr. Wayne, if you could direct your comments still at the town board. Thank you.
This is important.
I love it too.
And Conworth is important. And if we can get this Manor House built to code and health-wise without us spending a dime, why wouldn't we do it?
Thank you, sir.
Good evening again, Grace Martin. I want to talk about Conworth as well. If you look up and down the Hudson River, I grew up in Lower Westchester. Property on the Hudson for historical purposes is priceless. I think everybody knows the history. Most of these places were bought up and down both sides of the river from here, from New York City to Albany, pretty much for religious reasons. Conworth is a beautiful place. 20 years ago, I really wasn't paying as much attention as I am now to the board, but I do remember that being a point in time, and I don't want to make them old, but your forefathers, Connie Smith and Joe Ruggiero, saw the vision as well as other people in this room. It's basically priceless. Again, I think you have the opportunity to continue the legacy that this board wants to do. This public-private partnership is just wonderful. It is truly a no-brainer. It's a win-win. It's no cost to us. I mean, I used to look at Conworth and say, oh my God, how can we personally as taxpayers can't afford to keep Conworth going? So I was one of the people that shook my head, even though I was friends of Conworth, and I would go out there on garden club days, and I'd go out there when the sports museum had something. I'd go out there with, you got a community garden now. I'm out there a lot, but I always look at that building and I would shake my head. Now you have an opportunity. There's a lot of history in that building. I grew up in Yonkers. Untermeyer is a park in Yonkers, which was deteriorating 40 years ago. It got fixed, and now it's the venue where everybody has their wedding pictures taken because it's beautiful. Untermeyer was also part of Carnworth.
Yes, his brother.
If you go up the river, you have Oniat. You have everything up and down the river, these beautiful places. And your goal, again, is to make Wappinger a destination. This park is a destination already with having the sports museum, having the community gardens. Continue that and continue the beautification, and whether you get $1 for it or $20, it's not costing me anything, okay? Sign the lease, look at it, it's money coming into us versus all the money we've been trying to put in to preserve that place. So again, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Martin.
Hi there, my name is Stosh Kotler. I live at 777 Wheeler Hill Road. And I am up here with just a few questions, not in support of the potential leasee, but a question about what areas from this overall plan are being restored and what areas will remain as greenways. And then secondly, if I read the document correctly, the company that would be leasing the site has first access for developing more in the park. So I'm curious what process will be put into place or what will be public for all of us to know how the rest of the park might be developed over time, what leeway we would have as community members to weigh in on that, and essentially how will we know, what is the oversight for if things change over time in a way that doesn't feel aligned with the spirit of what I'm hearing tonight?
Thank you. And I can actually answer some of those questions if you'd like.
Great.
So the intent of this public-private partnership, or a public-private partnership, would be first and foremost the Carnwath Manor. So obviously, as Ed's outlined there, that would be the leased or retained space by that leasee. They would be doing a number of enhancements around the property that would still remain open to the town of Wappinger residents as a public park. Parking areas, the entry circle, they would all be enhanced, but still 110% be able to be used by the town residents. That was one of the provisions that I put in there as well, as to the first floor of the manor being open to the public for residential use, cafe space, whatever it may be, so there's still public access all across the board. The chapel, they were looking at the chapel room. So if you're familiar with the building, it's an overall two-story chapel space. They're looking at the room itself. They'd be doing cosmetic improvements, obviously, to the approach, the courtyard, and the facade, but then they would be using the room. They're looking to use it 3 days out of the week. Right now, as it stands, the town of Wappinger would then get the exclusive rights to rent it, use it as we see fit. That's how it is right now with this particular public-private partnership. The way that the lease is also drafted was that it was going to be, we actually negotiated at the advice of Councilman Phillips. Their initial offer was a little lower, so we negotiated up to $10,000 a month, which would be going directly into our Parkland Trust Fund. So obviously we're trying to stop overdevelopment now, so a way to circumvent obviously the recreation fee process for subdivisions, have an alternate source of revenue coming in, so that would be going into Parkland Trust. Again, and part of the negotiations was an additional $10,000 per wedding that they would also have on the property in that space. From time to time, obviously, it's a beautiful view up there. They may need to use additional space that would be rented out through recreation. But primarily, they're looking at the mansion, the chapel room. If at any point in time there was to be any sort of discussion of maybe the Carriage House or the Reese Cultural Center, they would have to come back to the town board and have an open public discussion as we're doing with this. So it's not like they get carte blanche of the property. That was something that I specifically was looking for, because in the past there had been interested parties. They were interested in the entire property. It didn't work out because obviously the sheer cost of taking on the entire property, and that's not something that personally I'm interested in, or I believe my town board colleagues are. The idea is to address this 25-year-old eyesore, this beautiful mansion that has been decaying for 25 years, and have a public-private partnership that the town residents would benefit from.
Yeah.
Not this current destination for vandalism and illicit activity that's happening there now.
Yeah. Thank you.
Let me just say, just to be fair to the previous administrations, I've been here for 6. The intent, yes, since 2007, was certainly to make this beautiful, right? But 2008 happened. The bottom fell out of the economy, right? 2009 became very challenging. So I don't want to inadvertently it to come across disparaging previous administrations, because Supervisor Ruggiero was here when I started, right? And I almost can't remember all of them, but there were many sound supervisors that the spirit was to do something. We never had an opportunity like this, though, to do a public-private partnership. And just to be fully transparent, I'm going to ask that we go into executive session. I got to make sure these numbers are right. I support this, but we need to make sure the numbers are right, because there is overhead on that property. So we want to make sure that, yeah, there's money coming in, but are we covering the overall expenses that need to be covered? My first vote here, I think it was in 2007, was to put $1 million into that property to keep it standing. Former Councilman Paoloni and I were colleagues on the town board at the time, and back then the idea was, let's keep it standing, let's buy some time, right? That was a long time ago. 2007. So yes, it still appears that we've done nothing, but I can tell you the spirit has been, let's do something, but make sure that we can afford to do the right thing. It's a multi-million-dollar project for us to do it on our own. This could be the key right here to making this work. I envision a Locust Grove type thing, right? Right, and even if there's a third, I don't know how this is going to work yet specifically on this lease, but Locust Grove, if you're not familiar, it's obviously the Samuel F.B. Morse estate, but they have a third-party catering agreement, and it's a beautiful venue, and it's it's still, the grounds are still open to everyone, right? But the folks that are having their wedding, they have that area in the middle, right? You don't want random people walking through your wedding, although that does happen, I will tell you. But I think that's where we want to go here, and I think the board, there's no objection to wanting to do that. We just need to make sure that the numbers make sense, right? Is that fair to say, council members?
Absolutely.
Yes.
I think that's a fair statement. I'm just going to make a comment on those two as well. I don't think anybody on the town board here is, against this particular project. I think that we need to take a look at the contract. I want our attorney to take a look at the contract. I think there's some other things that need to be done on the property. Again, taking a look at the actual lease. It's a 25-year lease with a potential extension up to 75 years. But it's all things we need to take a look at. We need to take a look at the money. I'd like to see an engineering report. That's one of the things we talked about, is having the actual people that are going to potentially buy this do an engineering report, have our engineer review it, make sure it makes sense, see what the cost is, and again, make sure there's no cost to the taxpayer. That's the bottom line.
And this is to protect the residents of this town. We're doing our due diligence. We're not jumping into this saying yay, yay. We're working to make sure that is to protect everybody. And people in the future can enjoy it.
Well, this could be the most amazing.
It could be.
And it has a lot of potential, there's no doubt about it.
It could be, but we have to be careful what we do and make sure that you're all protected. Thank you.
And I appreciate my colleagues on the town board for their due diligence. There's another resolution on the agenda tonight that my colleagues had requested, independent professional real estate evaluation appraisal services. At the end of the day, folks, as we've kind of noted here, it's been sitting here for 25 years. Yes, the bottom fell out of the market. I fully understand that. But what are our options? What are our options? 25 years, it's sitting rotting. There's gaping holes in the floor. It's rotting away.
I don't think anybody has said no.
I know that, Councilman, but again, there's always something else. I feel, and I respect everyone's opinions here, but the due diligence has been done. The attorney has reviewed this. We received a...
Our attorney didn't write the contract.
Correct.
I don't think this is the time and place to discuss this.
I think that this is the perfect time.
Well, I want to say that this is why I love Joey. Joey wants to push things forward, and I love that about Joey. And I want to be Team Joey tonight. I just want to make sure the numbers add up, because
I respect that. I respect that.
No, because I think this could be a unique opportunity. Al is the numbers guy, right? Just understand that. Al's the numbers guy. So I also have to hear what he has to say, and some of this stuff has to happen in executive session because we got to look at the legal documents. So,
but all I'm getting at is, because we've all had these conversations, we've said this before, that, again, looking for something else. Last time we had that, it just kept going. And now all of a sudden,
Yeah, but I think
we're
we're
going to have to pay our engineer to do something. We're already paying a private consultant. The idea was for this interested party to pay for all of these services, these studies, everything else, have them take on the cost
So
rather than the taxpayer.
we don't have a viable contract right now. You have a contract in place, but the numbers are set, as Bill said. So until we actually have that, I don't know how you can approve something until you know what the numbers are going to be.
What do you mean? The numbers are there, and there is no cost to the taxpayer. Right now, as it stands, Carnwath has a budget line of $10,000, which continues to get cut every year, and we mow it. We pay the electricity, we mow it. The Sports Museum pays a very, very small
And again,
amount of
I'll
rent.
say that nobody's disputing we need to do something. We just want to do it right. I don't want to rush into anything and find
There's
out
no
down
rush.
the road we've made a mistake.
No, there's no rush.
So let me just
We
say
can talk about this in February.
I think we're all going in the right direction, let me say that, and I think we're closer than we were at the last meeting.
Yes.
So I'm confident that we're going to reach consensus here at some point soon, Joey. I know this has been Joey's heart and soul, this place. I remember when he was 12 years old and I was sitting in this same place. Of course, I looked exactly the same as I do now, and without the glasses.
Exact same chair.
And I said, Joey, please stop going inside that building because it's hazardous, right? And we had a little dispute right here on the record.
Yes, we did.
But that's Joey. He wants to get this done. I'm all about supporting this overall objective, but at the same time, we just want to make sure that we have full consensus and we understand the overall numbers on this.
I understand. Mr. Wayne, if you could just come up to the podium since it's still public comment.
I seriously appreciate your concerns. I really do, and I commend you for it. Also remember this. There's a give and take to a bottom line. And some of the best paybacks have been the visionary trust in the goodwill. If we see in the contract, you're smart. You know the law. You have your lawyers on retainer. They can tell you if there's any hanky-panky going on. But I can tell you one thing, just like flash your imagination, something for the town. The back of the mansion, if you were to build a deck, it's like 2 stories up in the back. If you listen to the acoustics in that open area there, and we were to throw bleachers with porta sands behind the bleachers so it's not an eyesore, we could do a Joe Papp here and have theater for the summer for our residents and people to come and visit and have theater. We could do amazing things, open air things. Up on the top, and I commend you for passing that little library. That's very cute. It's charming. This is the kind of stuff that people, oh, what a great idea, and the trust that you lend books. That area where we just recently had to cut the tree that was dead, you could drop soffits into the ground and then seasonally put a stage there for open air performance, weddings, all kinds of things. Negligible amount of money to be able to process such a thing. We have the generators there to run electricity, where you can put the porta sands down where the former pool was if we're having big events. But this is, I have motor mouth, so I'm going to stop. But the point is, the assets for this community, artistically, financially, and just pride. This is the wealth, guys. It's not money. This is it, the pride. And my God, what guests we will eventually be able to beguile to come in to perform for us. We have the 2 venues, the indoor venue, which is the chapel, and that, plus the open theater. That's 3 venues. Think about it. That's all I'm saying. Think about it. It's very exciting. And Joe Papp bought junk chairs in some slop house bottom where he started the public theater, and look where the public theater has come and what it means to Central Park and what it means to the New York in tourism and to the residents of New York. Now, granted, I'm talking about a nano compared to a maximum dream, but why can't we do the same thing? Come on, guys. I love you guys. Let's do this. Let's do this.
Thank you, Mr. Wayne.
And I will help you every way I possibly can with all the colleagues I have.
Thank you, Mr. Wayne. I mean that. No, I know you do.
I believe you.
Hi. I'm Rhonda Donahue. I live at 80 Jessen Place, Beacon, New York. I spend 3 hours a day at Carnwath Farms. I have a tall poodle. It is a magnificent asset to your town, and we did try to move here. We were just too late. All that said, the buildings that you're discussing are gorgeous, valuable, you know, really important. But the thing that can't be reproduced or recreated or recaptured once it's gone is the land. I do appreciate your perspective, sir. I don't know your name, but you're at the end of the podium. It is really, really important to make sure that the numbers work, to protect the other assets of Carnwath, because if you are a person not living here or spending as much time in your beautiful town as I do, you would just look at the big chunk of land. But that is, in fact, the remarkable thing. As beautiful as the buildings are, it is the remarkable thing. And I would just implore you to protect it, to put strictures on it, to treat it environmentally correctly, because I do understand that because you own this land and you are the agent leasing it to an outside company, this will not go through your planning board, will it?
Correct.
Nor will it have a secret review.
It could.
Well, that's a good point.
It could.
We may,
but and just by way of background on this too.
Good point.
Because you don't live in the town of Wappinger, might not be fully aware of the process. Carnwath Farms has a conservation easement on it across 95 acres of its entirety.
Right.
The area that we're talking about is known as the Donut Hole, which
Right.
was reserved space for the town to lease, just like the sports museum, around the buildings. So it's specifically around the buildings. So I understand that
And
the
that's the only portion you're referring to?
correct. We're only talking about two buildings. We're talking about the mansion and the
So
chapel.
you're talking about on the far right, the chapel,
Yeah.
you know, obviously the
Yep.
chapel,
Right.
and then next to it,
The boarded-up building,
Not
correct.
the dorm, and
No.
not the big garage where the
No, not the
tractors-
carriage house. No, we're talking about two buildings
Okay.
within the donut hole.
Gotcha.
That's it. And again, by way of background, I understand, again, and appreciate the due diligence everyone wants to do. This due diligence was done in 2007.
Well,
with
I
the
read
master
the master
plan.
plan
Yes.
2
The
weeks
due-
ago.
Yes.
And it is a little, I'm going to agree with a prior speaker and say that the master plan, I think, needs to be updated to.
Oh, we're not going to execute a $30 million renovation plan. All we're doing, because the master plan, by way of information, folks, calls for a marina, calls for a toboggan run, calls for an amphitheater, calls for all the
it's
big
a little-
additions,
yeah.
and the town taking on the cost. That's why it was never executed.
Just to clarify, so there's the Carnwath master plan, right?
Yes.
And then there's the town master plan. So
And I
this.
was referring to the town master plan.
Okay, so I think
the
Joey's
town-
referring to the Carnwath.
Yeah, the Carnwath master plan.
I've never read that, which is probably
you-
good.
Yes, so that's specific for the Carnwath property.
It's a good read.
Yep, it is. And that's where, again, the town specifically sought out having a bed and breakfast-like entity in the mansion
Uh-huh.
and having an event space in the chapel,
In the donut hole.
in the donut hole.
And
Nothing
the
outside.
easement-
We
and the
legally
easement
cannot do
is
anything else
untouched.
outside of that.
The
Yes.
easement is untouched on the rest
Correct.
of the.
We legally cannot do anything else except for passive recreation, which exists for you and all the dog walkers. The agricultural programming that we've now expanded to
that
10
too.
acres there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So these are all the different aspects of Carnwath. So no, that was part of this process. We wanted to talk through that, make sure that it was only for these two specific buildings. We've discussed that. My colleagues on the town board are aware of that. But again, for your sake, the conservation easement outside that donut hole cannot be built upon, made for private enterprise or any sort of thing there. It's for passive recreation.
Thank you very much.
And here's the other issue, though. So what I want to see one day in my life, I may not be here, but I want to see a bride and groom at the very top of that hill, right? Right? With the river in the background,
Yes.
right? right? I want to see that day.
This is the reality here.
So here's the issue.
We have an opportunity.
The issue is we can't do anything permanent up there, but that's somebody, I think Hayden or somebody said you could put a temporary thing up there, right, for the ceremony, right? Do the ceremony on the top. Yeah, right? So, I mean, I want to see, that is, I do weddings, right? That's something else I do as an entertainer. And, you know, I was in Greenwich, Connecticut this weekend, right, looking at these beautiful places that I was working at, and I say, in our own town, we have probably the most picturesque view, right? I think you can see both bridges when you're standing there. So, yeah, I would love to see that one day. If we can make that work, that would be great.
That's all possible, Councilman, with this document, with this opportunity.
Okay. This guy's a salesman, I'll tell you.
I'm telling you, right?
You know, when you're very passionate about something.
This is a money generator,
But even then, it's not even about the money, because right now it's not generating anything.
It's opportunity.
It's opportunity cost, and that's the opportunity there for our residents to use it. It's boarded up. Someone had made a comment, well, wrecking ball is just as good. We would have to pay for a wrecking ball, folks, so.
Yeah, and just for the record, so full transparency, unfortunately, we had to look at how much it would cost to take that building down, right? That was something that we had to look at, and it was over $500,000 because of the asbestos abatement that had to occur to take it down. So these are the types of numbers we're looking at, or we have looked at, as different town boards and different supervisors have attempted to do diligence to the taxpayers. And again, let me just circle back. We have not had a unique opportunity like this before as long as I've been sitting here, and I think we really owe it to the applicant and to the town taxpayers that we look at this closely and give it our all. Hayden, you've reached your limit of...
Mr. Wayne, there are other residents that are looking to speak.
Just quickly, under the auspices of prevailing wage, which is crippling to all the towns...
This would not be under prevailing wage.
That's my point.
Yes.
That's my point. So, Al, you're spot on. But the thing is, think about the margin. So if they take on that burden, look what we avoid.
Right, we're looking at that.
Exactly.
We're choking from prevailing wage.
Again, we're not saying we're not going to do it. Just we want to look at them. I get it. Not prevailing wage. It would be 2x the cost if we went prevailing wage.
That's a good point, though.
Yes. Thank you. No prevailing wage.
Now I feel like we're all just coming up here to hear ourselves talk, so I'm going to make this really brief. Liz Striny, 785 Wheeler Hill Road. As I said before, I was involved in Beacon's revival in the early 2000s, and I actually served on the planning board when the Roundhouse was approved and was involved in the Roundhouse restoration project, in fact, as a project manager. So I had firsthand information as to the actual restoration processes and the costs and all of that. And I can tell you that, you know, and I'm sure everyone knows this, so sorry if I'm redundant, but like, it's very hard to monetize what happens to a town as the ripple effect happens when something like that gets restored. So you can talk about, well, it's going to cost us this, and we're going to save on this, and oh, the wrecking ball costs that. But the ripple effect of businesses that grow from the tourism that's brought to the area are enormous. So I don't even know if you could ever do an apples to apples to figure that out.
Yeah. Correct.
But I just want to say that on the surface, it looks like something that I'm very much in favor of.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else wishing to speak on agenda items only?
If no one else says anything, I just want to say that this exchange that we've had about this Carnwath property tonight has been very valuable.
Yes.
And we usually don't let the public portion go like that for an extended amount of time, but I think it was worthwhile to hear what folks had to say about that.
Absolutely.
This gentleman, I think, had a point.
Yes, Mr. Weber.
Hi, my name is John Weber. I'm the Greenway guy that takes care of the trails at Carnwath since Joe Ennisser and Franny Reese hired me way back in the day. And recently I've become a board member of Friends of Carnwath. And in that time frame, I've been doing some kind of research on what the community would be interested in doing at Carnwath. So I talked to Dr. Bonk, who's the superintendent of Wappinger Schools, and he's like, he got all geared up about using it for like out of school district sports events, like cross-country runs. There's yoga groups that would love to use that property. There's cross-country bikers, if we could do that. Boy Scouts, I mean, it's like everybody's waiting, just waiting for the word to use that property. And we all, I mean, you guys know, it's just too valuable to continue where it's going.
Thank you.
It's available now.
Yes.
All those groups can use it now.
Yes.
Yeah, they can.
I have Boy Scout groups that want to use that, but they want to know if they can camp on there.
Overnight.
No fires, no campsite. There's a fire, but could they use that property for that kind of thing?
It's up to the town board.
I know that in the past, there have been, the Adirondack Mountain Club has used it before. We've had other entities use it. Boy Scouts certainly have been there during the day. I don't know if they've camped overnight, but, you know, these are great ideas that we should discuss further, whether it be offline or at a workshop meeting, because I think it's important that the town board understand all of these interests that lie out there. I think that adds to what we can do. Even if we say we approve this partnership, right, and that involves the structures in the center of the donut, correct me if I'm wrong, Joey, but there are still options on the outside that passive recreation activities can occur at the same time while that's being used. So.
Correct. And we've had already this year, we've had Sunset Yoga up there, public-private partnership. In the past, we did a musical theater summer camp. We've had all sorts of uses, and the park is open, as to Councilman Phillips' point, open for rentals. Obviously, we have to discuss overnight camping, but yes, you know.
We've rented it out.
Yeah.
There's been car shows there.
Yes.
There's been, just go online. Go to the recreation department, call them up, and if you want to have something done there, they'll help you get it done. I don't know about overnight, but.
No, I would just say campfires, things like that.
We have to have a conversation about that.
We'll talk about that. I mean, I would get nervous with that.
It is open to the residents.
Yes.
The Manor House and that stuff, no. It is not safe right now. The rest of the park, yes. So go enjoy it. Take the kids. Be careful of ticks, but take the kids.
In fact, with the elevation there, for those that are familiar with ham radio, there was a time where we had a ham radio group up there setting up their antennas for a weekend and doing an exercise, which was really valuable for them. They have since gone to other locations, including Bowden Park. But yeah, this is a jewel in our town, and not only is it picturesque, but it's also practical in certain ways for passive recreation.
Yeah.
Very happy to hear you say
Winter's
that.
coming, tobogganing, sleigh rides, all kind. Bring hot chocolate, whatever.
Okay.
It's open.
I was going to say.
What I want to do is just throw in a plug for Friends of Carnwath. I'm trying to recruit as many people as I can in the community, so as the word goes out, more and more people will get involved in what's happening there. So if anybody wants to join Friends of Carnwath, all you have to do is go on the website. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Weber, and you do a fantastic job with the trails. You and your assistant Phil there, we appreciate your hard work on the Greenway. Seeing no other public comment, thank you, folks. This has been a very, very good discussion tonight. Do I have a motion to close the public portion?
I make a motion to close this public portion.
Moved by Councilwoman Bettina, second by Councilman Phillips. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much. Motion passes. Sticking along the theme of Carnwath Farms, I know a number of my colleagues on the town board wanted to discuss an update on the Reese Cultural Center. Folks, if we could just quiet down just a little bit. If we could just quiet down just a little bit, thank you. Again, continuing that conversation of Carnwath Farms. Previously, when I had served in the county legislature, I was able to obtain over $200,000 in grant funding for the Reese Cultural Center. That would have been used for doing the plumbing and heating infrastructure. Since 2016, the 4-story Reese Cultural Center that houses the Sports Museum of Dutchess County has had no water or heat due to a pipe burst that happened in the sub-zero temperatures of February 2016. And so when I was in the county legislature, we had obtained these funds, and we have now acquired some of them back for use, and we've also retained new grant funding from our state assemblyman, Anil Bipan, to do a portion of these infrastructure improvements there. The idea would be to run at no cost to the town of Wappinger taxpayer plumbing lines from the entry point of the building through the ground floor into the first floor. This way, the ground floor could be used for public rentals and community spaces, and give the Sports Museum, a paying tenant of the town of Wappinger, heat and water year-round. So I wanted to obviously open up this discussion here, see if there's any other comments from my colleagues.
Yeah, we need climate control in there.
Definitely.
I don't care how we do it, if it's Mitsubishi's or whatever those things
I
are
agree.
called. We have to do that because the artifacts that are in that sports museum are affected by the temperature variation. And I know they take some of the things out when the temperature drops, but I really believe that we must improve that climate control situation there. The amount of work that they've done, including Joey and your father, have done a lot of work in there too. I walked through there. Actually, we had like a little field trip there over the summer, right?
Right.
And I was just so impressed with not only how it's laid out, but the amount of history that's within those walls. I will say we did reduce the rent to a very low number a few years back, which I think was the right thing to do. So that said, I think we need to move forward on climate control, and I'm not interested in raising the rent any higher.
I totally agree with you. People, if you have not been there, if you have not gone to the Sports Museum, make it a point to go there with your children to see the remarkable people that have been part of our community.
Thank you.
They have achieved outrageous, I want to say stardom, but their talents are amazing, and it would be motivational. So please go, and we need to have it open all year round.
Including your uncle in there, right?
Yes, my uncle is part of it.
Heavyweight champion of the world?
Yes, he was light heavyweight champion of the world. Yay, from Beacon.
Mr. Wayne, there's no more public comment. No. Yes, Mr. Wayne.
With prevailing wage, is there any way to counter that because it's a 501c?
No. And it all depends on who the contractor is. Well, no, it all depends on who the contractor is. If the contractor is a one-man job, then he's a one-man job.
Maybe the counselor should
I
comment on this.
would defer to our lawyer.
Prevailing wage. I mean, we've done this before with third party. It gets a little muddy, right? So if we have the nonprofit do the work and then we give them money in some way, it's not the cleanest way to do
And
things.
the problem is, again, these are grants awarded to the town of Wappinger.
So this is grant funded anyway.
Yes.
This is grant funded.
So maybe we could ask,
True.
Council, excuse me, Mr. Wayne, Mr. Wayne.
True.
Councilman.
maybe we could ask Sal to just go in and give us
An estimate.
an overview. Because as Councilman Beal said, we need to get heat in there.
Yes.
If we do Mitsubishi's, yes, you can add them as you go. It'll be extremely expensive versus heat. I don't know, whichever one's the best for the town. I mean,
We have brought in a number of contractors, and they've given us quotes.
okay, so then let's look at them.
So I think we
Because
need.
the water.
Yes.
So I think we need to do is we have two grants out there, $50,000 each. We could also use potential ARPA money. ARPA money is federally funded, so no cost to the taxpayer. I'd like to recommend we go out and get 3 quotes as prescribed by our procurement policy, and make this happen, and try to, either on the 23rd or the meeting of October 15th, have those 3 quotes back. Again, what it does is if you can get water into those buildings, heat in those buildings, it does allow you, as the supervisor said, potential other rental opportunities, which again would be money we would be able to put back into the building itself, which is, I think, is a win-win situation for us. Again, we did make a commitment to Bill and Bar Ponte from the Sports Museum. We would do this. Something we've been kind of kicking around a little bit here. We did have a quote, I guess, a year or so ago. That kind of fell through, but I think this is important at this point in time. Get heat in there now. I mean, we're using porta potties out there for bathrooms.
No, we could do better than that.
And we should be able to do better. A lot of the people that volunteer there are seniors. So again, it's something I think that we need to pursue, and I'd like to make a recommendation tonight that, again, we allow the supervisor to go out there, get the 3 required quotes, and let's get this thing moving forward.
And I'd like to thank the Pontes, and I'd like to thank the volunteers that have done so much work there. Thank you. And you want to say something?
No, it is not.
Not really, but we're not following the rules anyway.
Apparently not, so.
Go ahead.
I just am going to ask a question.
Come up to the podium, please.
Go ahead.
Thank you.
Sure.
I just want to ask about parking, both for visitors to the museum and for the people in the public using the easements.
That is only restricted to the front lot. and the parallel parking in front of the kiosk.
And
That's
that
it.
will still be in effect after the lease goes?
Obviously, again, whatever improvements are made, we can obviously see what happens. They're going to have to improve parking and
But
everything
can
else.
people still park?
Yeah, it's a public park. Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, that's what was confusing.
Yeah, we're not going to lose the parking.
No, if anything, we're going to gain parking.
Yes. Let me say this real quick. So, yes, we have talked about climate control before. Understand that this is a huge building. This is like a 3 or 4 story building.
Well, that was the thing too, Councilman, that we were looking at a phased approach. Right. Maybe mothball the upper floors until.
Well, no, what I was going to say was the issue we had was the boiler originally. Remember, it was either on or off.
Right. Oh yeah, there was no
way to just do the first floor. You had to turn it on for the whole. I think the whole north side of the building. That was the challenge.
The entire building. Correct.
That's why I said those Mitsubishi. May be a solution, but again, that's not my forte, and I agree with the councilman that we should have Sal, who's our acting director of buildings and grounds,
He might say that's the way to go.
Exactly.
That's what we
have him
do.
do an analysis, and let's get this done before winter officially arrives.
Absolutely.
I think that's what we want to try to do here.
Oh, definitely.
Correct.
And I have to say, from being involved in town government for 13 years, this is probably the most positive conversation I've heard on Carnwath in decades. So I commend my colleagues on the town board for this positive talk and for sharing that vision. So thank you, folks. And I'm
glad this part of the meeting's positive.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to continuing to see that positive dialogue moving forward.
We'll keep it positive from this point forward.
So is it the board's wish then that we have Sal take a look at it first before we go off for the 3 quotes?
Yeah, I believe that's what Councilman Phillips already.
I agree with that, right? You're with that.
I just don't, what I don't want to do is I don't want to delay, because
I don't
if
either.
it takes Sal an opportunity, a week or so to go out there, we lose a week. I'd rather say, let's move forward. It doesn't hurt us to ask for quotes. Let's ask for the quotes now. We'll let Sal come up with,
I
his set of
agree.
numbers, but let's just keep it moving forward.
I agree.
Okay, thank you very much.
We have to get climate control, bottom line.
Yes.
In that section.
As
Right?
someone who was,
I'm not saying we need to heat the whole building, but we need to get that section controlled.
As someone who was helping my father do the drywall in the sports museum in some degree heat, in some degree temperatures with a space heater, I greatly appreciate that. So
Drywall
thank
doesn't
you.
stick too good.
No, we had to have a space heater in there, so thank you.
No, it doesn't.
Okay. Any further discussion on the sports museum? Seeing none. Moving along to our consent resolutions, ladies and gentlemen. Resolution 2024-174. Resolution authorizing settlement of tax cert proceeding in the matter of the application of L&M Wappingers Falls Housing Development Fund Corporation. Do I have a motion? Oh, no, I'm sorry. And then Resolution 2024-178 correspondence logged. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion we approve both resolutions.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Casella, second by Councilman Phillips. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you very much. Moving along to our non-consent resolutions. Resolution 2024-176, resolution authorizing memorandum of understanding with Regency Homeowners Association. Do I have a motion for discussion?
I'll make the motion for discussion. I'd like to move it to after our executive session. I want legal counsel's advice on it.
Okay.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Phillips, second by Councilwoman Bettina, to be tabled. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much. Resolution 2024-173, resolution authorizing the lease of the Carnwath Manor and portion of the Carnwath Chapel.
So I'm going to respectfully move this to executive session for discussion with legal counsel with respect to the lease documents.
Moved by Councilman Beal.
I'll second it.
Second by Councilman Casella. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much. Resolution 2024-175, resolution approving collective bargaining agreements with CSCA Local 1000, AFSCME, AFL-CIO, CSCA. Do I have a motion for discussion?
Yeah, I make a motion for discussion.
Moved by Councilman Casella, second.
Second.
So
Second by
this is
Councilman
basically a catch-up, Joey. So in other words, they're abiding by the contract today. They just have to have a resolution to approve.
Correct. There has not been a collective bargaining agreement since 2015 with the CSEA Highway Department. So this is authorizing 2 CBAs from 2016, 2017, and then from 2018 to 2025. So cleaning up what was being followed in the past, but not actually ratified through a CBA, and then obviously moving forward through the remainder of this year and next year.
So, I'll second.
So just on the question, with respect to the wage schedule, just to clarify what you said, right now, we are in compliance with our obligation for the year 2024, is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
And then there's not any additional fiscal impact above and beyond that,
And this
correct?
includes 2025 too as well.
Yes, I see 2025 is in here as well. I'm going to have to abstain from this vote, being that I am a member of CSEA Unit 814, Dutchess County.
Okay.
But I will just say this for the record, that I support our labor unions here in the town, and I appreciate the hard work that has gone into crafting this new collective bargaining agreement.
Thank you, Councilman. We had a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I will abstain. Just show that on the record.
Okay. Resolution 2024-177, authorizing execution of agreement for professional real estate appraisal services for the purposes. It's not included all the way.
Got cut off.
Got cut off.
Purposes of consulting services.
Yeah, commercial real estate consulting services for Carnwath Farms. Do I have a motion for discussion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Casella, second by Councilman Phillips. On this, the town board, my colleagues had requested outside appraisal services to evaluate the lease agreement for Carnwath Farms that we've discussed here tonight. I believe that first portion of that study was sent to us.
Yeah, and there was actually a second portion that was sent, and there'll be a third one with some follow-up.
Yes. And so that was very similar to what was already in this lease agreement, I would add.
So basically, we were doing our due diligence on this. That's what we were trying to do, making sure that we have an outside consultant that's going to take a look at this, make sure it makes sense as we move forward on the potential lease with Carnwath LLC.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Nay. 1 nay. Okay. Seeing no further resolutions before us this evening, we're going to move on to items for special consideration and new business. We'll start off with the First Ward, Councilman Beal.
Thank you. I just want to start out first by saying that it is a privilege to sit here and represent the residents of this town. I believe that collectively a town board has great responsibility, not only to zoning and budget, but we have a moral responsibility to our residents. And I can honestly tell you that being on this town board for 6 administrations, I have felt the feeling of accomplishment and achievement in many ways and at many times toward our residents of this town. I will sit silent here for only so long. I understand that there are residents that are concerned and upset about this ongoing gas station project that's been going on for at least 6 years. But we just have to know where the boundaries are when we come before the town board. Making statements or implications that board members or officers of the town are receiving bribes crosses that line. Attacks on integrity by any member of this board, I will, and I've told these board members, if anyone stands here and makes statements, I will defend the members of this board. Baseless accusations, and tonight is a first. Hand gestures from the audience that are not only uncalled for and juvenile, but to make statements about me buying a house and selling a house and somehow trying to connect that to a gas station. That is the lowest form of discourse I've witnessed. If anyone has a concern, I'm always available. You can call me anytime. In fact, I respond to needs in this town 24/7 and see things that most people don't see and have to deal with those things. And you're not going to find another member of this board that has entered a burning building and pulled people out. So when someone sits in the audience while I'm sitting here as an elected official and makes statements like that, I'm not going to sit silent. That said, on a serious note, September 11th, 2001 will be remembered again as we have here in this town each and every year. We take a moment to reflect and remember that dark day at the Sergeant Mark C. Palmatier 9/11 Memorial Park, located at Route 9 and Old Hopewell Road at Sergeant Mark C. Palmatier Way. We will continue that tradition again this year. And as I've said before, this is a brief ceremony. And anyone that's been there knows this. We marked the moment in time at 8:46 when this country changed. It's not a time for politicians to stand up and soapbox. You'll know that if you've been to this. We mark the moment in time and we remember, and that's what we do. That said, elected officials will be there, and you will notice that the elected officials are there in a solemn way to remember that day. Our emergency services will be there as well. And thank you to the Highway Department for, again, preparing the parking lot because it looks great, Joey. I know you deserve some credit for this, too. Somehow we saved some money, again, doing this.
Yes.
Thank you for that. But the park, again, looks beautiful. And I firmly believe the weather we see this time of year is the best in the year. And hopefully we see that Wednesday morning. That said, on Sunday, September 15th, right here in this room, we will continue the tradition of recognizing our town first responders at our annual, it's our 8th annual First Responder Awards. We had to skip a year because of COVID, but it's our 8th time doing it. And this year, one of the notable incidents that's going to be recognized is the gas explosion in the village of Wappingers Falls. We're going to be formally recognizing the public safety dispatchers and call takers that were recognized within their unit, but not recognized outside their unit. We're going to recognize those that responded that day, and often many of these individuals put their own safety at risk to rescue individuals that were buried in bricks, and by the grace of God, nobody died. There are debilitating and critical injuries that were sustained, but nobody died that day as part of that incident. So we're going to formally recognize our first responders for that incident and a number of other incidents, which brings me to what the pastor mentioned before. And Joey will talk about this in a few minutes, I'm sure, but what we witnessed yesterday within the boundaries of our town with motorcycles, ATVs, and dirt bikes basically showing a gross disregard for public safety and total disrespect to law enforcement, total disrespect for any and all laws, and a 20-year-old male sustained serious injuries in the middle of all that. And rather than allowing the state trooper to provide initial aid to this subject that was critically injured, there were a number of lawless individuals that were preventing and obstructing that initial care from being given. And I'll leave that right there. On Labor Day, again, here in the town of Wappinger, separate and distinct from yesterday, we had another tragedy. Labor Day was a beautiful day, and the nighttime we had a situation on Route 9 involving a motorcycle. And I feel like every other meeting we're talking about this. This individual was traveling at a high rate of speed, and struck a passenger vehicle, and tragically that operator of that motorcycle lost his life that night. The 20-year-old female in the passenger seat of that vehicle sustained critical injuries and luckily is still alive after being flown to Westchester Medical Center. So we thank our first responders, and we remind the public to be careful out there. Joey will talk in a minute about some of the efforts that that he's working on to help improve how we can respond as a town. Two quick things which are not to be minimized. Since our last meeting, there were 2 shootings in schools. The Appalachia High School in Georgia on September 4th was a shooting involving and tragically taking the lives of 2 14-year-old males, a 53-year-old female math teacher, and a 39-year-old male assistant football coach. That shooting happened the day before school began here in our town. And I know as a parent, dropping my son off at school the day after that, certainly it's beyond concerning. What I will say is it was comforting to see members of the Dutchess County Sheriff's Office at Evans Elementary School on the first day. We have, as a town, committed to ensuring that we have a police presence in not only our high school, but also in our elementary schools here within our town boundaries. There was another school shooting in Maryland that occurred where a 16-year-old male shot a 15-year-old at the Joppatown High School in Joppa, Maryland. This is not normal, and we should not be desensitized to the fact that these tragedies are happening around the country. I know from a county perspective, from a threat and behavioral assessment approach, the county is very proactive with allowing for mechanisms where school staff members and faculty have the ability to report unusual behavior and concerns in a non-penal way. In Dutchess County, we are leading the state with those efforts through clinical coordination for mental health and being proactive within our schools. From a town perspective, we are doing our due diligence, in my opinion. We have law enforcement in our schools that are creating relationships with not only the students, but also the staff members, building trust. And those law enforcement members are also another set of eyes and ears to identify something that may seem out of the ordinary. I just wanted to mention, as school begins in our town, we have committed as a town board last year and as a town board in this administration moving forward that we will do everything in our power to protect our children. And I'll just leave that right there. I feel confident that my town colleagues are on the same page with respect to making sure that we're doing everything we can to improve public safety. So just for those that are listening or watching this or those that are here, let's keep the family members of those that tragically lost their lives in the last 2 weeks in our prayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman?
I don't have to tell anyone how sad it was on 9/11. Our lives changed in a heartbeat. Your life changes in a heartbeat. You have no control over it. Be kind to your neighbors. Support each other. That's what it is all about. We only go down this path once. We have seniors, we have children, we have our neighbors. This is what makes Wappingers unique. We care. And that is obvious by the people that came to the meeting tonight. Voice their opinions. We're here to listen. But respect goes both ways. And I know people respect each other, but I think a gentle reminder needs to also be said. We're here to listen for you. My personal opinions do not enter when I make a judgment. I'm here for the people that elected me. God bless America. God bless us as we go forward.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Phillips.
Well, okay, so to lighten it up a little bit, one of the things the board always does, and Supervisor Cavassini does this daily, is encourage local involvement with our local community and businesses. I have to reach out to thank Tilcon, Clinton Point, and our son Jason, he needs a shout out. We were looking for a monument-style stone, and they donated one for March Field. If you haven't gone there to see the memorial we've set up, it's truly amazing, and I think that will just add the extra touch. So to Tilcon, thank you for your generous donation.
Thank you, Councilman, and thank you for going with the highway superintendent and personally selecting that stone in the quarry.
You wouldn't believe the number of stones to pick from. It is a stone quarry. Yes.
I saw these emails. I saw these emails. I thought this was a joke that they were going to the quarry to find a stone. Yeah. And then I went on vacation. I come back, the thread of them picking a particular stone. I can't wait to get out there to see this rock that you guys.
It's not moving, and it's not moving. It's not moving. Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Casella.
Yeah, so first of all, let me say thank you for Bill for doing all these first responder events. I mean, they've been truly outstanding over the years. Just give you a couple quick updates on March, so Mr. Phillips kind of took my thunder a little bit, but I just wanted to thank Chris and Joey for picking out the stone there, because again, for March Field, the memorial is now up there, and if you haven't been out there to see it, it's really beautiful. From a lights perspective, so we're still working on the lights. We actually got the approval on the electrical panel, so now we need Central Hudson to hook that up. Once they do that, we'll be able to turn the lights back on at Marks Field. And the expectation is by the end of the month, we'll be able to have the LED lights put out there as well. So hopefully in the next 2 weeks, Central Hudson will be able to get out there. Tennis courts, we had Craftco go out there. Craftco is the vendor that did all of the resurfacing for not only the tennis courts, but the pickleball courts. There's some repairs they're going to do over the next several weeks, so hopefully that gets done. We had something very new this year. We had Senior Center Grandparents Day on Sunday, yes, which was outstanding.
Our first ever one.
First ever. We're going to expand that, but I want to thank Kelly Ann for putting on that program, and also Jessica Fulton. The supervisor and I were both out there, and it was a really nice occasion, something new that we're trying. From a Rockingham perspective, we finally got that. I don't know if you've ever seen that gate that goes into the park, but we just had the whole park repaved. The gate there was this orange, terrible orange color, was peeling. They took care of that. They also put the flagpole up. The expectation is the flag will actually be there in the next week or so. So I want to thank the supervisor for helping there.
I just want to say that I was there today. So my son started soccer today. Oh. So at 4:30, I was at your park over there. Okay. Beautiful job you've done. All right. And then at 5:30, I had to be at Robinson Lane for T-ball. So I was there in your ward also. Great job over there as well, except the Wi-Fi doesn't work.
I used it over the weekend.
How many times I've got to deal with Wi-Fi over there?
Sorry to cut you off.
That's all right, no problem. So speaking of Robinson Lane, we also had the opening day for Challenger Field, which was another outstanding. We did a dedication for that as well. I think 3 of us were there for the actual dedication of the plaque that went out there. And by the way, one other thing I want to mention too is the supervisor is also working from Mark's perspective of putting that plaque on that wonderful stone that Mr. Phillips got, and it'll have some information about Major Daniel Martz on there, so that's a nice thing. We'll talk about some of his service, et cetera. Yes. And I think that's something we need to continue to do. On Saturday, we also had something called Rocky's Ruck for Johnny Cakes. So the supervisor and I were both out there. It's a walk for PTSD. It's a 5-mile walk that started at the Wappingers Royal Cemetery and ended up at Schlatt House Park. Again, a great event. We probably had 75 to 100 volunteers, so outstanding there. So again, I want to thank all the volunteers because they did an outstanding job. And again, a lot of good things going on in the town, and we want to continue to make that happen. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Councilman.
And the Spook Hill update. Thank you for the supervisor reminding me. It's been a long, long process, as everybody knows, Spook Hill Park. They're actually digging the holes for the concrete to put the
Outdoor exercise
yes,
equipment.
the exercise equipment, and so it is moving forward.
Yes.
We say that every meeting, but it is moving forward.
Yes.
So thank you.
No problem, and again,
Slow but
thanks.
sure, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
and again, thanks to my colleagues on the town board for funding a number of these initiatives and projects this year. Spook Hill Park is now fully funded, and you will start to, again, continue to see the improvements there being built out as a whole at Spook Hill. So thank you, Councilman. Kind of bringing the mood back down a little bit. I do apologize, folks, but over the past few months, this town in particular has seen a number of horrific accidents and reckless acts throughout our town on our roads. Whether it's Route 9, county roads, town roads, they continue to get worse and worse. Let me be perfectly clear that we will not tolerate any kind of the disgusting, lawless behavior and disregard for the law here in the town of Wappinger that we saw this past weekend. Yesterday, a group of approximately 40 masked individuals made their way through our town and village, causing a number of serious accidents, surrounding a New York State trooper, attempting to steal his police cruiser, stealing his Stetson, and fleeing the scene of an accident. We have zero patience for this, ladies and gentlemen, in our town. And in response to these reckless and outright dangerous actions that occurred yesterday, we are working with our partners at the Dutchess County Sheriff's Office and our partners at the New York State Police on additional targeted patrols to crack down on this type of lawlessness. Again, as all of our members and colleagues up on this dais have noted, almost at the end of every board meeting, we acknowledge some sort of tragedy that occurs on Route 9 or somewhere in our town. And not even just yesterday, but we can look back at the Labor Day incident, or the individuals associated with the individual who passed away on the motorcycle went back to that site and continued to perform dangerous and illegal acts in the street, including donuts and wheelies up and down Route 9. Double down on something that is outright dangerous. I implore our residents that if you hear or see any of these types of actions, to notify and call 911. We need to increase our vigilance and situational awareness when it comes to these types of situations. Our residents here in this village saw a number of people driving motorcycles and quads across their front lawns, evading police. This type of activity has no place here in our town of Wappinger, and we are working with our state representatives, county representatives on addressing this moving forward. So again, this is top of our radar moving forward. On a more lighter note, as Councilman Casella noted, we dedicated Inspiration Field over the weekend at Robinson Lane Baseball Complex, a project that was nearly 20 years in the making. 20 years in the making, folks, has now been completed. And again, I thank my colleagues on the town board for their support and advocacy in moving this along. The Major Daniel Martz Vietnam War Memorial, now completed. A rundown stone sitting in the corner of a parking lot is now the focal point, the entry plaza to a beautiful park, one of the more popular parks now in this town thanks to the improvements we've made. We move forward with adopting our CSEA labor contract. Again, a contract that they did not have, our highway employees, since 2015. We continue to make amazing progress on the board, and I thank you for that. And we may have our disagreements here and there, but it's in the spirit of democracy and trying to do the right thing for our town. And again, I implore my colleagues on the town board to continue to do the right thing as we have done all year long and continue to look out for the residents. I would like to note that tonight my former colleagues up in the county legislature We have Legislator Faust, my successor in the legislature, here with us tonight. Thank you for attending. Just recently adopted tonight an aquifer protection law, which will actually strengthen protections, especially when it comes to gas stations in this town, limiting them within 250 feet of any private well. A substantial restriction has now been placed all across this county, including the town of Wappinger, and I thank my colleagues for carrying on that law that was discussed. Thank you. And again, we thank everyone for coming out here tonight and speaking. Again, this is what makes a community. We may not agree, we may disagree, but at the end of the day, we are doing whatever we can day to day here in this building to look out for the quality of life of those who live here. With that, I'm looking forward to seeing everyone at our September 11th ceremonies. Time for us to come together and reflect on that horrific day, but again, come together as a community, as only our town of Wappinger does.
It might be worth mentioning for folks, we understand it's a weekday work day, right? So the 8:30 a.m. service may be impossible for you to attend. We get that, right? New Hackensack Fire Department will be doing an evening service. Correct. I believe it's at 6 p.m., correct?
Yes. And the Village Wappingers Falls will have theirs at 4 o'clock at Osier Park.
So you have 3 options to pause and reflect, and if you don't feel comfortable going to a ceremony, I would just ask folks to just pause and remember that day and and the impacts that this country received.
Okay. That's all it here. I was going to say, do we have a motion to enter into executive session for the purposes of pending an active litigation and now pending an active legislation and contract negotiations?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Beal, second by Councilman Casella. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you very much, folks. We will be returning in public session, and hopefully we will make this quick. So we will be returning. Thank you.